everybody, welcome to another edition of A Chapter a Day Keeps the Doctor Away. My name is Alan, otherwise known as Hisui, and I'm from ReverseThieves.com as well as the Speakeasy Podcast. And this time, I'm going to be looking at Soredemo, Machi wa Mawatteiru, otherwise known as And Yet the Town Still Turns. And I'm looking at Volume 1, Chapter 1, The Blessed Cafe, in parentheses, before. And I got interested in this series because somebody recommended the anime to me because they were reading the manga, and they said, oh, I think you'll like this because it's about a detective-obsessed maid who works at this really weird maid cafe. And it wasn't as detective-y as I thought it would be, but it's still a pretty weird but funny manga. And the anime was really interesting. So if you remember J-manga, which was one of the big first attempts to have like this big collaboration of manga out, one of their like best-selling titles before that whole site went under was actually Soredemo. And so now that Crunchyroll manga has, kicked up, they have seemed to be restarting the whole Soredemo thing. They have the first 5 books, and they only have chapter 108, but I assume we'll see more in the future. But since I couldn't jump in at 108, since there hasn't been a new chapter in a while, I was hoping to do like 108 and 109 back to back. But since that's not going to work out, I might as well just start with the first chapter and see how much I can do at the beginning and then maybe jump to the... I don't know exactly what my plan is. We're going to have to see what Crunchyroll does, but I figure I'd at least cover the first chapter. It's a pretty fun manga series, so... we start off and... the series basically introduces us to the main premise, which is that Hattori is this girl who works at this very weird cafe called the Seaside Maid Cafe. And she is not a very good employee, but she's kind of lovable in her stupidity. And there is Hiroyuki, who is this boy who is totally in love with her, and basically the only reason he goes to this cafe is because he's madly in love with Hattori, and so he goes to this kind of weird cafe to see her. And the proprietress is this old lady, and she also wears a maid uniform, but she is like mum-ra old. And clearly, being a maid cafe is not her main repertoire. But maid cafes are popular, so she gets Hattori. And at first, one of her friends, otherwise known as Uki, hears about that, she works at a maid cafe and she's kind of obsessed with maids. So she's like, oh, I want to see you at the maid cafe and see what this place is like. And she goes in and she's just super disappointed, like, oh my god, you're such a slacker. And you just greet people like, hey, what's going on? She's like it was some dive ramen bar, not a proper maid cafe. And she's like, you gotta be like, welcome home, master. That's like the real maid experience. And, the owner of the cafe is like, oh my god, you're the girl I should have hired. You're like the real deal. You have maid spirit, like they say in Hayate. And so she's like, nah, I can't. I gotta join a club. But I'll teach this foolish young girl how to do things. And one thing I totally forgot from watching the anime is that Uki is totally stacked. Like, the first manga is never like super blatant about it, but it's pretty obvious that, you know, she's got huge tracts of land. I don't know why I didn't remember that, but the first chapter I was like, oh wow, yeah, man. That's a weird thing that I forgot. Um, Maybe because my favorite character is so that I just don't remember her, but yeah, Uki. Now that I'm thinking back on it, I'm like, man, every once in a while I was like, boy there, Hiroyuki, you know, there are reasons that you might want to look into Uki. She's not totally the worst choice if you're shallow. But, yeah, so he's like, she's all like, all right, you know, you've got to do the proper introduction. And one of the local yokels who usually stops in, and she does like this kind of messed up, you know, basically cutesy version of it. And they're all like, she messed up. And Uki's like, no, no, no. Her being like so totally ditzily clumsy and messing it up, that's even hotter. And like the guy jumps her and she like, psh. And then Uki and their friend totally make her do stuff like trip and have the hot coffee splash on her face, and when she goes to clean it up, trip again, and, you know, basically flip head over heels and expose her panties. And it's like, even better, the more she messes up, the clumsier she is and the better she is. And Hattori's like, you're trying to kill me. I hate you. But one, I definitely feel like the exaggerated faces in the manga kind of really sell the manga. I mean, the anime was really kind of, you know, shifty and stylized, but there's something really kind of fun gag manga about the way people react in the manga. It kind of gives it a different humorous tone. It's a little more exaggerated, whereas the anime is a little more subdued. But if you kind of like that hyper, it can be fun. And also, I don't remember her panties being that prominent in the anime. But it's weird. It's kind of half like sexy and fetishized. Definitely, you know, she's got full panty on display and garter. But in another way, she's kind of almost so sad when she does it. I guess you could be really turned on by that. But I feel like it's almost more ha 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 ha. Like, it's funny because it's so sad. More than it's funny, and it's sexy. But I don't know. Maybe I'm underestimating just the sexiness of sadness in otakudom. But yeah, eventually Hiroyuki shows up, and Uki's like, oh, well, if he's here all the time, I guess I can be a maid here. And so she joins the cast, and the owner is like, excellent. I actually have a good employee now. And so, yeah, an interesting little introduction to this really weird maid cafe with a weird name since they're not by the seaside. And kind of a good introduction to kind of the weird mixture of extreme and subdued that the manga has. Kind of not into the weirder plots that it goes into, because every once in a while there's like aliens and totally like one-off crazy plots with ghosts and the such. But it does have a more of the kind of really typical situation with kind of a uniquely zany, like not almost. I don't want to say as a manga-y, but kind of its own version of really quirky that either sells you from the beginning or makes you go, "Arr." But a fun little introduction into Soredemo. I'm glad to see this, back in print legitimately. And, for the meager price of a Crunchyroll manga subscription. So, I'll probably do some chapters, if nothing else, to get up to Futaba-kan, who's my favorite character. And kind of curious to see how much cooler, if she is cooler, in the manga. I mean, it's pretty hard to be cooler than Futaba. But we will eventually get up to her. Until then, see you guys next time.